Good evening, everybody. Thank y'all for coming in. We have Travis and Kayla Shepherd. They are running for City Council, Ward 3, positions 1 and 2. And they wanted to come talk to everybody. So hope everybody's got some questions. I know I do. And to start off with, I know the big kicker in conversation these days is city sewer. My personal opinion, it's on record. I'm against it. I don't think there's enough people benefiting from the cost of it. My personal opinion is out there for the world to hear. Now I'm going to pass it over to the guest. So how are y'all today?
Doing good.
Good. So my understanding is our wards got redrawn. How long ago did that happen?
I want to say maybe May.
Back in May?
It was right after I got elected,
Because it was 2 wards with 3.
with 3 people per each ward at that point, and I think we were behind on what we needed to be. Two people per ward, and to cover the people size of our town.
And do we know what a rough population is of our town these days?
It's 900 and something, just under 1,000. Most of the wards are split into 340, 350. I think Ward 3 is the biggest ward. It's around 380 something, but
Nice. So are both of y'all on this? It's just you at the moment, right, Travis?
yes, sir.
And how do you like it so far?
I like it. It's not the immediate change that you go in expecting to do, or there's a little bit of a learning curve. Dealing with it, you got to deal with like municipal league and their laws and rules and stuff like that. So we got an attorney, the city attorney Blake comes in, and he's good at answering a lot of those questions and stuff, the routes we need to take. And I mean, that's how the wards get changed over, and it goes through that paper process to get it like that. And but I enjoy it. I wanted to join and do it to represent my neighborhood. I live in Todd Davis subdivision. It's one of the oldest subdivisions in town. A lot of it was built by FL. Most of the roads down there are named after all his kids. Right. So, I mean, but when I moved down there, they were all dirt roads, single lane dirt roads. You had to pull into a driveway for the next person to go down. It's funny because then the speed limit down the dirt road was still 45, and then they came in and the groups of people down there came together and chip and sealed the roads at one point, and then it lowered it to 35, and now that they put a little bit of blacktop down it, now they lowered it to 25. So
but there's quite a few more people living in that.
There is
these days, more kids playing, I think.
Yeah, there was a lot of kids back then.
Yeah, but they were tougher back then.
we were a lot tougher back then. But it's great because the lake's right there, and right. It's awesome to be able to go down there and watch sunset over the bridge and stuff like that. I really enjoy being in that area. My mom bought that house in '94 from FL. She used to work for FL as a paint lady, and she's real meticulous about organizing. So one year she'd sit there and organized all the screws and all the nails and all that kind of stuff, and they were trying to nickname her the Screw Lady, and she says, I ain't walking around with that as my nickname. So she was the lumber lady for many years in this town, and nice. and the Abilities Unlimited lady, and she became a paint contractor and stuff like that. So but growing up in that neighborhood, you see a lot of it's retired people and stuff, whether they've been here the whole time or they've moved in from out of state. And a lot of people don't want to get out at dark, and that's when a lot of the city council meetings are, right at dusk or dinner time. I like that they're starting to broadcast them and stuff online for people to hear and be able to be a part of it that way. But I wanted to be a voice for the people in my neighborhood, because our neighborhood still needs quite a bit of upkeep,
Right. And I kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit. I do appreciate the city trying to do that. And
Well, before you dig down into that, I got a question for you. Since you're already on city council, Travis, what made you want to do it?
I just woke up one day and I felt like this is something we should do. I told Travis, it was probably the end of last year. I just woke up and I said, it was about the time they were going through all the different police chiefs. And I said, something just tells me that we should be involved. We should start paying attention. And so that's kind of where we started. We just started with there. And then the guy that was Travis took the position of was friends with Travis's mom. Her boyfriend and him played in a band together, and so we had a surprise party for her one day. And he was like, "I'm about to move. There's about to be an open position." And I said, "Well, I've been thinking that Travis should run. I think he would be a good candidate." And the guy agreed. And so it started with us just kind of telling his mom, this is kind of something we've been thinking about doing. She passed away in February. So the council meeting was actually the day she passed away.
oh,
And I told her, I said, it's something that we have talked to her about. It's something that she knew we were going to do. I said, I think that you should follow through with it because it's something we told her. And, so we agreed and he went, and surprisingly, he got elected. It was a council vote. But so I've been going to the meetings. And I see that people don't really get involved. There's one or two of us at the meetings, and there are people that watch online, but I wanted to encourage people to come and start joining and being a part, because I don't feel like the community is really encouraged a whole lot to join. So once we started going around and talking to the people in our neighborhood, we found that Christy Massey is who represents our neighborhood. She actually lives just up the road from Travis's mom. And when I went around and started talking to people, I found that lots of people didn't know her. They didn't know that she was even on council. They didn't even know who she was. And some of them even lived on the same road as her. So it kind of just encouraged me, because we do go around and we do talk to our neighbors and they do know me. So I was like, well, if she's your councilwoman and you don't know her, I said, I feel like there's a little something wrong with that. You should be there to represent the people. So it kind of started as a joke, as I was just going to do it. And before I knew it, I blinked and I had all my paperwork filled out.
there you go.
So I was like, I guess we're doing this thing, we just want to be a voice for the people. We're locals. We know lots of people and we know their opinions, and we go around and ask people for their opinions. And I feel like that's what a council person should, and aldermen should do. They should be there for their people.
Completely
And they
agree.
should
We thank you.
speak for the people.
Absolutely.
Very good. So where I was headed was, I do appreciate the city council trying to do that live thing, trying to put it out there. For somebody like myself, she can vouch for me. I should really get hearing aids.
He doesn't hear very well.
But I think that's one of the reasons I kind of enjoy doing this, because it allows me to sit down and have a conversation. And with these things, I can hear the whole conversation. So that's kind of cool to actually know what people are saying. Go figure. And so I think that could be better, but I do agree with you. As members of the community, we should be more involved. We just sit idly by, resting assured that they're taking care of it. And when you see the good things that are going on, there have been some good things, roads being paved and street signs. So not knocking the good things that have happened.
I will give the ladies at the office that they do very good at filing for these grants and stuff that bring in free government money to help our roads and help our systems. And even, they file for grants and stuff for the police department, so it gets them up to date on some of the stuff they need. And I think that's very important, is for the police to be prepared for any situation. As small as the town it is, there's still crime regularly,
It's not the kind of crime that a lot of people may be used to.
Not when you've got people coming from Memphis and
Right.
Little Rock and
Well, my thing to that too is you look at what you know, Sheriff Brown's doing over there with Cleveland County, and you look at the stuff that happened with Operation Ice and stuff over there in Van Buren County, we're right in the middle of that, you know. So if they're having that many drug problems, there's no way that we don't have those kind of same problems. We're not, we're addressing them as much as we can. We're kind of limited on how much police force and presence we can have. I've been told that if we have 5 officers, then you have to start going through extra things with paying the overtime and stuff like that. And I feel like, you know, of course, the school pays for the resource officer, and he's solely for the school. So we've got 2 officers and a chief, and I think they do with what they can, and I want to be completely supportive of our police and hope that they keep fighting crime, because.
Well, one of the ones that I think personally, I mean, was Mr. Charlie, Charlie Wolf. I enjoyed that guy. He made his presence known.
He came around and he introduced himself to the business owners, and, you know, he gave out his card. If you need anything, you can call me. He was trying to form that relationship with the community.
You got to have that in a small town.
Absolutely.
I will give, you know, Callan, he's the new officer on duty, or the younger officer that we've gotten hired, and I have high hopes for him. I see him up there at the school and getting children out every morning, and I think that's a big help, and especially with the way school systems are going these days and the threats and stuff that goes against schools and all schools across the state and stuff. I feel like that police presence, and you can tell the way a kid's going to act when they get out of the car in the morning, and to watch them kids run up and give them high fives and run into school in a better mood, it makes my heart happy, you know. And just, but I think a police presence in our town is needed. I think that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's needed in every town.
Oh,
I mean, even in Mayberry.
So we've got kind of a question, but so Miss Helen says, Kayla, tell us your maiden name.
My maiden name is Murphy. I'm a Murphy. My dad is Mike Murphy. My papa is Felix Murphy. They have lived here their entire life. I was actually just asking on Sunday, I was asking my papa a little bit of history, because the Murphys are so many of us, it's kind of hard to know the history, and I didn't really know what was what, but he said, you know, they told me that the Murphys has been here since the 1800s. They were here long before the lake. My papa actually told me, he said that he helped survey the lake. And then after he helped survey the lake, he helped build houses around the lake in the 60s. And then when my dad was old enough, he helped build houses around the lake. It wasn't, my dad, after he built houses, there was for a while, he became a truck driver, and that's how he met my mom. So my mom was actually from Wisconsin. So they moved here in 2000 to take over my papa's family farm. They're chicken farmers, and they live out on 92. But I'm pretty much related to half the town. We've been here forever.
Well, I tell you what, it's pretty quiet. You would think there'd be a lot more
quite a
questions,
question, but nobody's.
but it's all good.
We kind of figured it would be a.
Well, that's what I found talking to a lot of people here lately is you ask them what their concerns or their problems with the town is, and a lot of people go, I don't have a problem with the town. I like it just the way it is.
The way it is.
And I've talked to people, I've done work for a lot of people in the last few years that's moved in from out of state, and they've bought these houses unseen. They've never been to town. They don't know what it's like, and they buy it to be at the lake and for the way it is, and then they get here and they're like, I absolutely love it. You know, everybody's so welcoming and stuff like this. He goes, you don't get that at other places, even, you know, not ones that are built for tourism, you know.
Right.
You got people who make money catering to tourists and people like that, but we're nice. to everybody all year round, you know, whether they're here to spend money or here to live here. I think that makes a big difference. I mean, I tell people that all the time, there's not another place on earth like Greers Ferry, Arkansas.
If there is, I hadn't seen it.
No, I mean, there's beautiful places all over, but I mean, I like our little peninsula. There's a bridge in and a bridge out, or you can head towards Batesville.
That's it.
But you know that old saying, have you been hiding under a rock? That's kind of how I think of Greers Ferry. We are hiding under a rock, but we like hiding under that rock.
When I grew up here as a child with my mom and stuff, and of course back then there wasn't a whole lot for kids to do in town. You know, there wasn't a whole lot of street lights, so you know if you ran around at night, you weren't seen anyway. You know, and I got into a little bit of, mischief as most children, teenagers do and stuff. And it was about, in ninth grade and stuff where I really needed to hunker down and focus on schoolwork. And I ended up moving in with my older brother who lived in Conway at the time. So I went from being raised here as, from 2 till, 14, 15 years old to moving to Conway, which is demographically completely different than here, and then moving to Searcy and stuff like that. And it was crazy to say, I tell somebody, well, I live at Greers Ferry, and they think Heber Springs. I jump off the bluffs over there. I'm like, not the same Greers. The lake, yes, but not Heber, I said, but
that is a fact. Everywhere we go, everybody's like, oh, Heber Springs. No, I said Greers Ferry. There's a reason. It's different.
And I love some of the history that we got with Greers Ferry. I heard stories of Jesse James and stuff coming through here and having, my mom married into the Hunts, so they've owned land here for years as well. They donated. That's where some of my selflessness for my community comes from, because I was raised on that. The Hunts donated the land that the school's built on. They've donated land to churches and playgrounds and stuff in people's honor and stuff like that. So some of my selflessness comes from that, and then watching them do good for our community and wanting to do the same. And, they had land with farmland and old cabins that didn't have insulation in them and stuff. They had tin coffee cans nailed to the wall so the air didn't come through the crack. As kids, that was fun to go out and go camping in, and it was always like, there's going to be a treasure around here. Jesse James came to this cabin, and then and the same thing, with being close to Heber and the natural springs and stuff we got here, there's, they talked about Al Capone and stuff coming down and sitting in the springs and stuff, because these waters are healing. I dealt with a lot of stress and stuff as a child, and would break out in hives and stuff with anxiety, and I could go get in the lake and stuff, and it would calm those, and I believe there's a healing property here,
Right. And we'll go back to that short in a little bit, because I ran into, when I was doing the county appraisal stuff, I ran into a gentleman that used to work for the Forestry Commission, an older gentleman, and he had tons of pictures like before the lake came in, and telling me some of the stories and things. This area, this part of the country has always been a really cool place, and I didn't realize how cool, even back in the 1800s. We'll just go ahead and go over it. So Heber used to, back in the day, was full of hotels. And like the existing courthouse that's there now, the courthouse before that, they picked it up, moved it one block back. It became a hotel. Of course, it burned down because everything was made of wood. But we had a taxi, horse-drawn taxi. He would pick people up at the train stations, take them to their motel, take them over to the springs. They'd all be dressed in their Sunday best, taking their black and white pictures, down here at the Healing Waters. And I mean, it's really cool.
It's God's country.
It is indeed, for sure. Somebody said, tell us about your kids.
Well, your kids and your homestead. That comes from Miss Tracy Davis.
You want to talk on the kids?
You got one?
I love my kids. I love having kids. I've been blessed. My grandpa had 6 children, and I've always wanted to have a big family. So I've been blessed with a wife that is not fought me too much on having as many kids as I wanted to so far.
That tends to help, huh?
It does, it does. And I always joke around. I said, everybody's like, oh, she's pregnant again, and I joke around and say, well, you keep her at home barefoot and pregnant, she won't get in trouble that way, It's just the country life. But I have 2 kids that we homeschool, Tucker and Sophie. They are 10 and 11.
You see how he looked at her before he said their ages?
Got to do that on their birthdays too.
Yeah.
We got 2 of them born in May, so we'll tend to swap their birthdays around too. Tucker is hard-headed as he is for his mama. He's going to be a great man when he grows up. That kid when he goes to work, he's got more respect and work ethic than a lot of the people I've had over the years that I've worked with. People, go, that boy's a hard worker, and I say, yeah, I could probably pay somebody else to come help me, but if all they're doing is holding the other end of a tape measure, I'd rather pay him to do it.
Right.
We do have a little homestead. With working in Greers Ferry and being self-employed for so many years, we learned that during the winter months and stuff, it gets hard. So we spent the last few years trying to get rid of all our debt and make it to where it wasn't such a struggle for us to just be able to have a happy life. I didn't, a lot of people come up here to retire. So in my eyes, if I can show up at their house at 9:30 or 10 instead of knocking on their door at 7 and waking them up and them not wanting to be up, I can get just as much done in a 5-hour day as most 2-man crews can get done in an 8-hour day. So
I understand that.
And if that means I get to go home and spend time with my family and the animals and the homestead we got, we're doing that. The homestead started as really just a way to get away from the junk that they sell you these days.
Yeah.
You can go buy a pork chop and that thing's almost white when you buy it. I can tell you right now, the pigs I raise, it almost tastes like a steak when you cook it.
Yeah.
We rotationally graze our animals, and we try to make sure they're eating good, and in return they give us food back. I call them, it's a little magic. You turns vegetables into bacon.
That's right.
We've got pigs. We quite a bit right now. We switch breed. We've been raising feeder hogs. Just a couple a year. We found that two will last us about a year. I started raising coonies because they're supposed to be more of a pasture raised pig and not root so much, but they've got marbling compared to like a Wagyu beef. They're really supposed to be a good meat breed.
Talking over my head. I just like to eat it.
And that's what we were going for, is quality. And
We know bone in and boneless.
Yeah.
so we switched breeds up this year. So a lot of that breed takes longer to grow out. It takes 1.5 years to grow them out, where a feeder hog that gets 300 to 400 pounds you can grow out in 8 or 10 months. So we do that. We have chickens, we have turkeys, donkeys, goats,
Wow.
anything that eats the grass and keeps me from mowing it.
We'd have a lot more if I'd let Travis buy it. If Travis wouldn't, I'd put my foot down.
Sometimes you have to.
He's came home with goats in the back of my SUV before. So if I didn't put my foot down, we'd have a lot more.
Oh, we had a male goat that kept jumping out over the last year or so, and couldn't keep our female goats away from him. So we were like, okay, we're gonna sell a pair and get rid of our male goat, because he'd bred every one of our females we needed him to, and some we didn't need him to.
And they stink.
And
Yeah, they
boy goats stink. So we put it online, and one of the kids, or one of the guys I went to school with, me and her went to school with here, seen it. He actually lives over in towards Jonesboro, and I guess one of his friends wanted to start a homestead, so they decided they're going to come buy a male and a female goat from us, you know. So they decided to come up and get it, and we're like, yeah. They showed up in a Kia.
With a tarp in the back.
With a tarp tacoed in the back, and our male goat had a set of horns on him like this. They're like, please don't knock out our window. And we're like, have you ever had a goat before? Nope. I said, you got an interesting ride home, you know. But
I bet they never got that smell out of their car.
hopefully he didn't have to go too much while they were in there, but at least they put a tarp down.
Yeah.
I took a dog kennel when I brought home our first goat, but
But Tucker and Sophie helped with a lot with the farm. And then you never told them about our other kids. Tucker and Sophie.
stuff. And then
He jumped to the animal.
and then I got my feral COVID babies. So if I've got a wild child, it's because of them. I've got Owen, he's 5, he's in kindergarten, and then Natalie, she's in pre-K, and then my youngest one I have right now is Adelie, and she is
1.5.
1.5, and step. I'd have had more in between there, but
Yeah.
But I need some sanity. It's about occasionally.
We don't have kids, but I mean, it's not that we don't love kids, but we have enough running around here. We got 2 nieces, and we've got the little
We love 'em all.
4-year-old boss that runs around here. We're good. We're good.
They keep you busy.
They we love them all.
well, we this summer got a little hectic because we wanted to do more for the older kids, you know. So Heber had a football camp and a cheerleading camp, you know, during the summer, and we were running over there and taking them to that. And you know, and then you got 3 littles over there in the heat of summer while the big ones are doing football and cheerleading it.
And then
got a
they do
little
taekwondo on Monday, Wednesdays.
Yep.
Yeah, Danielle show her girls does
Yeah,
it,
they just started
and
that.
she was telling me about it, and she was like, "They keep wanting me to do it. Looks like fun, but I don't know what I can do."
I did it for a month. They do it at the Scout Hut or Senior
Yeah.
Center on Mondays and Wednesdays in the afternoon. She's actually got 2 classes. She's got an early one that's at 4:30 to 5. It's about an hour-long class, and then one that goes from like 6 to 7. But
She
it
also does is it Guy?
Morganton
That
at the firehouse there.
Yeah.
And now that one's really nice if you can do the drive. And with the membership that she has here, you can go to one or both classes, both days here, and you can go over there and do the same one. So, I mean, if you really want to go, you could be going 8 times a week if you want to. They've got really, really nice pads and stuff set up at the one in Morganton. They're doing really, you know, they do what they can over here with the senior center, but she's got to come in and move tables and set all the mats up and stuff every day. But I'm really glad she does that. She sponsors a lot of the kids and stuff that are low income and stuff like that, and they're, you know, just for them to have something to do. And I really praise her for that, because there's a lot of kids in this town, I think, that need a lot of that guidance and a little bit of structure and it's activity. They don't look at it as that way as I do, you know. They don't see it like that, you know, like tumbling and kicking. And it's funny though, they do a sparring class usually one day a month over there at the Morganton one, where they have chest pads and head pads. Of course, anybody who's not like a black belt, you really don't go for head kicks, so it's just a really big chest pad. But it goes from ages, grown-ups that are over there, and, you know, older, you know, women that are over there, down to, you know, 5-year-olds and stuff. And it's really fun. And I've been to a couple of sparring classes, and I'll tell you what, it's a workout. You know, it's about 2 hours of sparring, and they do it between. And you might be fighting a black belt one second, and then you're fighting a 5-year-old the next one, you know. And
But she definitely encourages families. Like she don't want just the kids. She encourages the adults, and she wants to make it a family.
and that's what Danielle told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kayla had Kayla had a video of me fighting like 4 12-year-olds one time.
He's always telling Travis, "Hey, come beat up my black belt. Come, let him beat you up."
But
So we got a couple of questions coming in. What is your view for the future of our town?
for the future of our town, it's hard to say. I mean, I can't start every business that I think should be here. If you live here in the wintertime, you know how hard it is for these restaurants and stuff to stay open. I've watched many businesses come in and out, whether they're restaurants or stuff for kids and stuff. I would love to see more things for kids to do around here. You know, Tracy's pushing for a skate park, and I think that's a good physical avenue for a lot of kids to take. Not that it's a business, but you know, it's part of I think a future here. A lot of the problem is the main strip of town's owned by just a few folks, you know, so until that goes up for sale, it's hard to start a business where you're not going to be on the outskirts, or rent just gets higher every year, or, you know, Lou and Carol's done their best to keep rent low so they can rent places out over here and stuff like that. But as far as the future goes, I'd like to see more mom and pops and more of the, stuff that, you look at like Mountain View or Eureka Springs and stuff like that. It's mom and pop souvenir style shops that, give somebody a place to go in and purchase something, and they don't mind a markup on some handmade things or something like that. And I feel like a lot of that shines. I would love to see a trade school go in. I don't know how much funding or how we'd go about that, but I'd love to see me being in the trades now and stuff. I didn't think I'd own a construction company. If you'd asked me when I was a teenager, I wanted to own a recording studio, or I wanted to be an architect. And, then I went to college for criminal justice and law enforcement. And then I come here and start a construction company because I was bringing him more checks in a month than I made all year, and so I did this as an income for my family. I would love to also own a restaurant at one point here in Greers Ferry. I've always loved and enjoyed cooking. So I think the trades, I think that's a dying field, and I think there's people that are my age or older that are tired of crawling around under people's houses or working on houses that are built in the 70s. And if they could sit in a classroom and teach 10, 15, 20 students that don't want to have to go out of town to learn it, I think that'd be a great opportunity for our younger generation to be able to start businesses in the same kind of time frame that you'd have schooling out of college and not come out with so much debt. Right.
Don't get any ideas, Jason Blanzy. You still got like 45 years before you can do the class thing.
I will give Jason credit. I've seen Jason take multiple people under his wing and pay for all their schooling and try to create and create a job opportunity for them, and some of them's went off and done better, not better than him, but done better for themselves.
Well, I just after he was in here a couple of weeks ago, and how sharp his brain is, I think
he'd be a great teacher.
He'd be a great teacher. I'm just telling him not to do it too soon.
Well, and the thing is, I think that's part of the, a thing about it is you don't have the old heads holding you to a higher standard anymore. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of people, I see decks and stuff being shared online all the time, as advertisement. And I can, if you're picky or OCD about things, you can look at a picture and go, I don't want, something's wrong with that, and
guilty. Isn't this supposed to be this way?
And I think holding people to a higher standard is something that is an art that something that's dying to,
Yeah, and that's at every level. It doesn't matter if it's business. I mean, it's every level of life.
Mm-hmm. And the pride. I don't feel like as many people take pride in their work these days, where some of the older men, they do take pride in their work. They're gonna slow it down a little bit and make sure that it's done right. Where I feel like some of these people just are ready to get a paycheck. They're just wanting to slap it on there as soon as possible. Whereas if you brought a trade school in, you know, you can teach that pride. You can teach all those students to take pride in their work.
And I would say in some cases, yes. And that's what one of the things I told my niece was, you know, whatever job you pick, whether it's waiting tables, whatever, do it with a smile on your face and a good work ethic. Show up on time, do your deal.
If you love what you're doing, it's never a day of work.
And somebody, even if you're not making what you think you ought to make, you never know whose glass of tea you're going to get. That, you know what, this girl's got something.
I mean, it happened for me.
It happened for Jess, and
Good old Butch Dom, kind of loving.
Yeah, I love Butch.
yep, which. Here's a question we didn't see coming. What are your thoughts on the potential sewer project?
Do you want to give your view?
I personally am not for it. I've got a lot of people tell me that I should not just straight say that, but I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I'm an honest person, and I'll straight tell them I'm not for it. There's a lot of people that want to see the feasibility study. And I personally, as soon as they started talking about septic, we started digging into Fairfield-based septic system. You know, they've had it for the last 12 years. Heber Springs, they've had it for the last 50 years or something. And we did our own research. You know, we went to Fairfield Bay, we asked questions, we asked how much money. I dug into their financial reports to see how much money it cost them. You know, Fairfield Bay actually lost money the first several years that they were in business, and now with their water fees at $45, they were still losing money. You know, this year they're going to go up to $106, and so that's why I'll straight tell people I'm not for it. I feel like there's lots of people in this community that are on fixed incomes. I know Travis's mom was one of them. You know, she was on Social Security and she was only getting $1,048 a month or something like that. When she died, all of her bills were paid up, but she only had $30 left in the bank account. So, like, she wouldn't have been able to afford a septic bill at $100. And I feel like there's a lot of people in this community that, you know, have that they can't make any more money. If they're retired and they're on Social Security, I mean, there's not an option to make more money. And I feel like the bills and the cost of things is going to be way too extreme. And I just saw that from just looking into Fairfield Base, you know. Fairfield Bay is redoing their Grand Isle, and they're upgrading it from a 50,000 gallon holding tank to a 75,000 gallon holding tank. It's only going to service 62 houses, and it's going to cost $1.5 million.
Wow.
I just don't know how you're going to pay for $1.5 million with 62 homes.
No.
You got Heber Springs. They just they've had their facility since the 70s. They just upgraded 2 of their big pump stations. They just went through the main strip of town and upped the size of their septic line and up the size of their water line, and it just cost them $15 million. So I mean, I just don't see where Greers Ferry is going to be able to afford that. You know, the 1% tax that we have right now is only bringing in $400,000 a year. If you were to pass a tax on that $400,000 is not going to pay for a septic system. Fairfield Bay pays 6 people, like about 6 people to run their facility, and their payroll a year is $200,000. The way I see it is if a septic system were to have to pass, I feel like it would not be a 1% tax. I feel like it could be even all the way up to a 3% tax.
Right.
And then that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the feasible, you know, hopefully that'd be what the study's going to show the numbers. They weren't, and people weren't on board with it in '08, you know, and I don't see it getting any cheaper. Maybe this engineer firm is better at juggling their finances than the last one, but the last one, when it come up, was going to be around $10 million.
I seen that report you shared the other day, and that was
They had
really good.
3 in revenue bonds, which has got to be voted on. $3 million in the covered with grants, and then they were going to have to loan out the rest. And you're talking a bank loan of $4 to $5 million. Most of them loans aren't like a house pay, you know, like a house mortgage. You know, they got to be paid off in a pretty short time period. And if you're looking at a $50,000 a month note for the city, we can't pay we can't pay our cops that right now a year. I don't know how you're going to pay for a septic bill a month that.
Right.
And I might be overstepping when I say that. I don't really know the numbers, and hopefully, but I know there's people who want it because they think it's going to bring bigger things and bigger chains and stuff. But if Sonic can't keep all their bays open even during the summer when we're busy, or these restaurants got to close down for a month during the winter so their families and stuff can, not go without, I just don't see how bringing something like that's going to bring in so much more business that we can keep it going in the wintertime. I mean, people got to get out there and support things in the wintertime, and when it's cold and dark and blue and everything's gray outside, and people don't want to get out, and people don't make as much in there. It's a tourist town. A lot of the money, people who work in restaurants and stuff, they make their money throughout the summer months, and most of them are lucky enough to have multiple incomes, or multiple people bringing incomes into houses. But there are those that live here on fixed incomes, and I just worry about it being a financial burden on them, because you come up here to be in God's country and to retire and live out the rest of your days. And I'd hate to, the food bank here in town, I think there was like 134, 138 families that go through this food bank here in town that the church runs. And if they're already having to go get food, what's another, however much the dues are going to be affect them. They talk about it being comparable to a water bill. Water company already said they're going to go up on all their stuff for the next so many years because they're building a new holding facilities and stuff like that. And I know our water bill with our little tiny home that we got is $100 a month. Of course, we're doing a lot of laundry and dishes, but
Right.
but even the minimum, when we pay the minimum, at his mom's house, and it's $36, almost $40. I mean, that's still a lot of money for not using any water.
Yeah. Sure. I just want to say, I apologize last week. I think it was wasn't it last week when we were doing the show, and one of y'all commented in there, and I felt horrible because I didn't know who y'all were, but I do appreciate the fact that y'all.
I think I even voiced it on the air. I was
First-
like, I don't know who Travis is.
First chance y'all got, y'all come by.
I was,
and say
I was,
hello.
yeah, I was on, well,
That's
I
awesome.
clicked on, I was on the Shepherd construction page when I clicked on that, because the prior weeks y'all were doing great. I love what y'all are doing with this place, and y'all were
Thank you.
answering Jason was answering questions and stuff. But I clicked on my business page, and when I was scrolling through, I seen it because I liked you on the business page as well. So I seen it, and I just clicked on it, and I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm on my business
Well,
page.
I'm just going to be completely 100% honest and transparent. If there would have been a picture of you, I still would have been like, I don't know who that is.
Well, he looks just like every other bearded person. We get we'll sit down in a restaurant and they'll be, "Are you Zach Brown?" No, we're not. So no country singers. Like, you're with us.
But I do appreciate very much y'all stopping in and saying hello, and I see a friendship. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So,
And I figured I'd like y'all because Jason Blandy talked highly of y'all. And I kind of like
Well,
that
if you
guy.
can get along with Jason, you can get along with a lot of people.
so the next question is what are y'all's views on the city becoming wet?
I don't think it'd pass. I think it has to pass through the county, not just the city. I mean, we've had,
Yeah,
I grew up, I can tell you this, I grew up at the Narrows when I was a kid. There was a pool hall underneath, there was game rooms, but as a kid, I could tell you the number on the phone to call because that's where the local trades went to go pick up more work. They'd go there. My mom was a paint contractor and stuff. She'd go there and talk with the builders and stuff because they wanted to go have a beer. I'm not opposed to anybody having a beer. I think everything should be done in moderation, of course, but I don't. Look how many churches we got here. I don't see it passing.
We support Beaver Liquors, and it's not that far away.
Right. And Cravens.
yeah.
But that's kind of my deal. I mean,
there again, from where we grew up.
And I ain't saying that I wouldn't mind a supper club or something where we could have a steak and a beer and not, and you know, I don't think it needs to be anything extreme. I just, you're not gonna, it would generate some revenue if it did ever pass. The taxation that's on alcohol and stuff like that create, you know, just same, I mean, take medical marijuana. I mean, they've completely redone roads and stuff in states because of the revenue that's based off of that stuff. So, I mean, I'm not saying all that needs to be passed or it needs to be in this town, but it is a source of revenue, but so would annexing a little more of Greers Ferry. I mean, right now, Greers Ferry city limits runs over to section line. You don't know how many people I talk to who live between Fox Chase and section line who think they live in town and they don't. You know, unless you live on the highway, you know, or this side of section line, you're not in town. I think, you know, you could generate quite a bit of revenue back into the city if you, and of course a lot of people probably won't like me saying annex in, you know, Sky Point. Look how many beautiful homes and stuff are out that way and on the lake side of that. And, you know, if you were getting that taxation, I think you could have more money for the police and more money for the fire departments. That was the big concern with the having that, is because anybody who's in town, their fire dues are covered. If you're out of town, they pay fire dues, and then that's how they get their income. But I think a lot of that could generate some income for our fire department. I know our chief right now that's on the fire department is doing what he can to get the iOS numbers and stuff down and bring more to this town as far as fire goes. I'm glad I approved that new truck because I was the first one to get to see it in use.
It worked very well.
It worked very well. It put out the house fire that we had at my mother's place, and I'm glad to see that that we have such a good volunteer basis on that, because without that camaraderie and those people to be in our town, same with the EMS and stuff like that, without those kind of people, you know, there's a lot of people who wouldn't make it, you know.
The town would suffer.
If we were having to wait another 5 or 10 or 15, 20 minutes for someone to come from a bigger city. We do wish that there would be more people that would come volunteer. I've heard numerous people over the last couple of weeks saying, well, yeah, I thought about joining that fire department. And I encourage anybody that's thinking about it, go talk to Ernie, because they definitely need more people on the fire department. And I'm sure the same thing goes with the EMS. They need more people. So if you're thinking about it, even in the slightest, just go ask. You never know what kind of help you can be.
Right.
Well, and you might not be the one running into a fiery house. You might just be the guy directing traffic after the fireworks show, you know. And I think all them people are very vital to our town. You know?
I
Completely agree.
I agree. Was told to ask, have you played the guitar lately?
I did. I actually was it
At the
just
coffee
last
shop
week?
this week.
At the coffee shop. Yeah.
You can come into the coffee shop some days and he'll have his guitar.
Okay, what are y'all calling the coffee shop?
Grounded Nursery.
Okay. Just
Put a shout out to them. I've been asked if I have stock in that business because of how many times I go in.
Because we like living there.
The coffee, their biscuits and gravy.
Their biscuits are good.
Oh, their biscuit gravy is where it's at. Their scones are good. They're good.
All right, why do we keep going back to food?
Plus I'm
that was our whole
a plant person.
Listen, y'all, they got here at 6:30 before the show started.
Start talking
And
about
our
donuts.
whole conversation for that first 30 minutes
Was who had the best donuts?
food.
I miss working at the donut shop.
I always make a joke. I've been telling the mayor for a while now. I said, if you just make this a potluck, we'd have a whole lot more people attend.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
Yeah.
How do you compare and contrast the financial yield versus the social challenge of becoming wet?
I think we kind of already touched on
I
that.
think kind of, sort of. I don't see a benefit to it, and I don't think tax revenue is enough of a benefit to justify it. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, you get problems along with it as well. there's people that deal with addiction and stuff every day. And, you know, when it's right there, it makes a big difference. You know, when they go up there and buy it, you know, in just 10 minutes up the road, they can come home and sit at home with it. But when they run out, they don't want to drive 10 more minutes up the road, you know, where if it was right here in town, how many people are you going to have running back to the beer liquor store to get something? You know, I worry about that because it's hard to navigate some of these turns when you're sober, let alone if you've been
right.
drinking.
Well, and there's so many recovery places here in town, you know, it would just be closer. I want to say there's like 3 recovery groups with the churches here in town of people. And I'm sure some of those people are alcoholics that, yeah, if it was just closer, it might be a little worse.
Yeah, I for the stumbling block purposes alone, I'm against it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll ask a question and it individually, same question, but what is your hopes in being the voice for the community and for the people? What are your hopes in change?
My grandpa always said, look out for the widows and the orphans, you know. And I feel like there's a lot of people, a lot of kids in this town. I was raised in this town by a single mother for a long time. I know that those kids have struggles, just like the stuff going on with the schools and the threats. I can't help but to think that child's life at home can't be easy if he's going to school and acting out like that. Right. Whether it's them kids picking back or he's being the bully to begin with, someone's picking on that kid. And I hope that as a community, especially as a church-based community, I would hope that we'd have people and counselors of some sort, you know, whether it's faith-based or just counselors who's had it, you know, be able to talk to these kids and let them know that there's different ways to deal with emotion and stuff. It's hard to deal with emotion when you're going through all the puberty and all, you know, not even just puberty, just going through life in general, you know. And no, and I mean, and I was talking about that today. We homeschool a couple of our kids. We've got some that go to school because we're testing the waters again. But you know, they talk about socializing your kid and stuff. Well, when your kid's out of high school, they're never going to be in a room with another 30 kids again. They don't have to worry about that. You know, 30 kids don't know how to act right all the time. Right. You know, things are going to be said. Social media and stuff like that, it's even easier to bully and deal with that kind of stuff these days. So as far as, you know, our town goes with that, I would love to see more things that involve the kids. I've been looking into here recently starting up kind of a scout, not like, well, kind of like a Boy Scouts, but just for everybody. And the reason I don't want to go the Boy Scout route is because the cost it puts on the parents. I want it to be completely free for the kids to come and join and do that. But I'd like for it to be, since we're such a beautiful lake community, be able to teach them skills that involve the outdoors, whether it's building fires or setting up camp or just doing the lake cleanup. When I was a kid, we'd have barbecues and they'd have musicians and people would get on boats and clean up the whole lake. And now it's like, oh, it's a weekend, and if you got some trash bags, we might have a dumpster for you to throw them in. And I believe we need to bring stuff like that back, because that really brings community as a whole. Because and then because you got old men that are out here on that boat every day, and they'd love to take, you know, 5 or 6 young boys out there and let them go on the island and clean up all the trash and the beer cans and everything, because the people who come to this lake don't think about it in that sort. You know, they're out there partying and drinking and their cans float off. They don't care to go pick it up. And, you know, when it's our shoreline and stuff like that, and then you get then you get all the cool stuff you find on the shoreline.
There you go.
Lures, or I can remember Lake Receipt and me finding clams the size of footballs, you know, at some points. It's a beautiful area, and I'd like to keep it that way. As far as progress and stuff, other than that, you know, like I said, it's a retirement community, and I'd like to see that people can still be able to afford to live here, you know, without having too much of a financial burden on them and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very slippery slope, and it would be super easy to lose what we have here, and that terrifies me, and I don't want to lose what we have here.
Okay.
I personally would like to see some improvements in the police department. I would like to see some more presence at nighttime. I don't know whether that's just we bring it to light and maybe just start talking about it, because like, I don't know, the mayor is the one that's in charge of the police chief, and then, you know, the council is kind of like over the mayor's finances. But I personally think that there's lots of problems in our community involving drugs. I mean, I would like to see the police come and be able to do something about that, not go after the addicts. And I feel that's kind of where they're going right now. The people that the rest they make there, it's only 3 or 4 grams, you know, that's not the problem. Those are the addicts. I would like them to see them go after the people that are the suppliers, the actual problems, the people that have been selling the same drugs for the last 10, 20 years. And I would like to see more police presence. Not on the police department, but I like other things. I'd like to see the park. I feel like the park is a big issue. I feel like a lot of our money goes to the park, and it doesn't really bring a whole lot of money. You know, they built that Eagle stage. I think that I would like to see it be put to use. You know, I think that would be a great revenue for the city park if we would rent that out. You know, how kind of like Mountain View does with the little like nights where you come listen to people. I feel like that would be a great attraction. I feel like that would bring other people in from other towns, you know, and then they got done listening, or before they listened, they'd go support our restaurants.
In our little stores, our little shops and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great. You know, I think that people come here, they come here for the lake, or they're coming here for their kids' ball games. There's lots of kids' ball games, and you know, that's what they see. They go they go to the park.
Yeah.
And they are in the process of you know, renovating the park right now, but I got some disagreements there also. You know, they took over half the playground equipment. They just recently did that. They put in 1 2 to 5 year old structure, and they took out about 7 other things. So actually right now, if you go down there and look, the whole right side of the playground is empty. So I'm not quite sure what they're planning on doing there, but I would like to see something happen with the park. You know, if you talk to anybody, they'll say that it's just kind of a big money pit. I don't know if that means we need to raise the money on our concession stand food. I actually was talking to Travis earlier. I said, I would like to see them serve local food at our concession stand. You know, the barbecue restaurant, get some barbecue, and then they can serve barbecue up there, because then they're not having to cook burgers, but they're supporting a local business.
Right. Kind of rotate it.
To different businesses.
That's right.
Yes. I would like to see improvements of our roads. I think that you know, there's $200,000 a year that go to the one, you know, the 0.5% tax that the people pay. There's $200,000 a year that go to our roads, and I don't feel like there's a whole lot of roads that get done every year. I would personally like to see better roads, better lit roads. You know, there's not many street lights around. I feel like maybe if we had more streetlights, maybe there wouldn't be as many crime problems. I mean, I'm not really sure there, but I feel like that. Let's see. I'd like to see the town spend less money. I feel like last year, the town has spent a lot of unnecessary money, and I'd like to see them spend a little less. You know, they've done a lot of things this year. They've bought side by sides. They've bought a new lawnmower. Where they just redid the bunker to hold the metal. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of spending in the town, and I'd like to see a little bit less spending in the town. Not towards the roads. I do think money needs to be spent towards the roads, but just for like the other things that aren't necessarily necessities.
Well, now the bunker thing, I actually I like having the scrap pile there, because we all know if you didn't have a place to take that,
I like
It'd just be in your
it
yard.
would be piled up in the yard.
and they got that trailer there to do the metal and the recycling and stuff like that. When they originally brought the bunker ideal up, it was to be for the recycling thing. When city council approved it, it was for if we could get a grant to do it. And since they wanted to put gravel on the other half, I guess they never decided to file for the grant, and they went ahead and built the bunker anyway. So
There's some things that get pushed through that don't necessarily go through the steps that they're supposed to go first, and I would just like to see a little bit more structure on the decision making of the spending. I do agree that the concrete
metal building or whatever.
Not the new building, just the concrete
In front of
thing
it.
that's right there where the scrap iron trailer was.
Oh,
Between where the trailer was and the city hall.
little
It's built in the
new
side of that
concrete
bank.
thing they just built. I do feel, but the point of building that was so that it would be cleaner and all that stuff wasn't like piled on that trailer. I think a solution to that is just taking the trailer more often. People are still going to see it. Matter of fact, I live that way, so every time I come this way, I'm going to see right into that. Anybody else that comes this way. So I mean, I don't feel like it's going to hide it anymore, but I do think that is probably a good revenue for the town, and it does help people clean.
and I was all for it being paid for with the grant, because with the grant that you get, it would have been 100% paid for. I think the problem with them when they went to file the grant is because they wanted to put gravel in the other half of it and not just use the whole thing for a recycling thing. So the grant wouldn't have covered it. But with that, we also spent almost 16 grand on putting that thing there. And I feel like when you get officers that are making less than 40 grand a year, you could have gave them another 5 grand for the year and probably got a better outcome out of your police department, or people that want to stay in here. We went through how many chiefs and police officers and stuff in the last year. That's part of the reason I wanted to join and stuff. I've had run-ins with known drug dealers and stuff in this town. My mom was a very kind-hearted person and has took in addicts and people like that over the years and housed them and put them to work and stuff like that to try to get them out of those bad spots in their life. And some people have took advantage of her, like in that sense. And I've dealt with one of those people in the last year with her death and stuff like that. And
Because he was selfish and thought he was entitled.
and I think there could be police can do what. There's a lot of probable cause to pull people over if you know who the drug dealers are, who's doing the drugs, who's moving the drugs. It's not that uncommon of a thing, There's a lot of people to talk. I heard them at the liar's table this morning. Well, that's probably just a meth lab over there and this and that. Well, you can pull those people over if they got a blinker out. Don't use a blinker. You can find drugs on people. There's a lot of reason
well,
that probable cause.
kind of go back to what you were saying with the police department and all of that stuff. I would like me as a business owner, I would like to see our officers have a more bigger presence in the community, the people that they are serving and protecting. Because I will be honest, I have no idea who our officers are. I do not know who they are.
Well, we got Mike Tharp right now.
He's good about doing his job and pulling people over. Not that he pulls everybody over. He gets lots of verbal warnings, but we do feel like he does his job good.
Now that's the number 2, right?
That is number 2.
Okay, I think that's
he's
the
been
one
here a
that won the
little
grill at Lake Fest. We've met him,
yeah.
but we don't.
Okay, but I don't know him.
Yeah.
But like with Mr. Charlie, come around to the businesses, introduce yourself.
So I think Kellen is in the process of that, but I don't think he's necessarily made it to everybody yet. I have heard some businesses that he's came and introduced and was just like asking, like the employees that work there and when they worked, so he got to know them. Recently, Lone Star had a youth night, and I noticed in the background of the youth night, he's in his uniform shaking hands in the background. I do like seeing little things like that.
Yeah.
Because I do think that it makes people feel a lot more comfortable. I'd like to see a little bit more police presence at nighttime, though.
Or just drive-throughs in the neighborhoods, when we've had certain officers that would patrol the town. I personally drive the town at least once a week. Well, more so now that I've got signs all over town, I'm trying to make sure they're not falling over.
And that's like the majority of the roads in town.
You know,
Like, it's possible. It doesn't take very long.
We
No, it doesn't.
drive them, you know, and you can notice when things are missing. You know, we've had
Right.
multiple, you know, boats and side by sides, and hey, this isn't here, and these people aren't up, you know, and get a hold of them. And, yeah, they know it's supposed to be there, and
And that's something that a lot of people had bragged about David, and they said they missed about David, is that Officer David he would go around and he would make his rounds around town, but he would notice those things. Like he would
Well,
notice when
and
something
he
was
would
missing.
he would leave his card, and he would even timestamp it. I stopped by, checked the doors at 3:31 a.m. Nobody does that anymore.
And it does make a business owner feel a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, I think that I had something else that I don't.
Well, just on the food at the concession stand at the park, y'all know Mike Shahan. His wife Joy said, "Do serve Borehouse barbecue and buy the hamburgers, buns, and sodas from Family Market to help support the
good.
community."
I love that.
So, and I thought at one time,
I think, but
thought
the
Mike had-
concession stand, I think it's almost a break even type thing. I feel like there's something there that we need to, I don't know, there's something there that we're not doing yet that can make us a little bit more money. Because I know that the park is a money pit.
See, I just had another one that said they love finding those notes, the business card or the card from the officer, knowing that he's came.
I love them stop. I walk my neighborhood all the time, and I've talked, you know, with Mike Tharp and stuff like that. He's stopped in the neighborhood, and I've sit there and talked to him, you know, whether it's about my dog or about my goats or, you know, about my goats.
He's like, "Do you sell that goat milk?" Like, no, I can't milk my goats.
But you know, I do. I enjoy the police presence and stuff, and enjoy. I went to school for criminal justice and law. I love talking. I mean, Mr. Charlie, when he was over here, you know, helping with the grounded nursery and stuff, me and him sitting there and talk for, you know, an hour at a time because, you know, about procedures and this and that, just because I love that stuff. It just,
Well, he was just an awesome guy to talk to.
well, he's had a lot of different experiences,
yeah.
you know, and when you
Yeah.
go from state to state and everybody has different training routines and stuff like that, it's different from just moving in from Little Rock. Or,
my only
you know.
complaint about him is if we were out here kind of late at night and he called us and we got to talking, you couldn't get away from him for a couple hours, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that. It's
You
just
probably help keep him away.
I like to be in bed by 10.
The call.
I remember what I was going to say without, another thing I would like, I feel like the city has lots of ordinances that people don't know. I would like, Travis and I have talked about going in and just reading through the ordinances. You know, we talked to Treva. She said she has several books of ordinance, and I don't feel like people know.
Well, I mean, I would say that's true for everywhere. You know, people want to talk about felons and this and the
feel
other.
like
And I'm sorry, but I mean, you know how easy you probably commit 3 a day and don't even know it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Council members should be up to date on your ordinances, though, and even your police officers. And you know, something else I would really like to see is whether, I don't know if, you know, it would be the mayor or the city, or I don't know who would go about it, but I would like to see the council, the aldermen, be required to go to the municipal league. At least one during your 2-year term, you know, go, because that's where we learn all our rules. You know, I mean, a lot of times we have to rely on Treva because she's the only one that goes to the municipal league meetings.
Blake, you know.
And there's 2 a year. And, you know, even if she was to go and she's the only person that goes, there's multiple classes that go on at a time. So if she wants to know something about multiple classes, I mean, she just take her husband and send him or something. But I feel like if you're on city council, you should be aware of those things, especially if you're going to serve multiple terms on city council. I'd like to see some kind of requirements where they urge their aldermen to go and learn.
and you say that I'm on the board of equalization for the county, and it's a 3-year deal, and every 3rd year, before we start a 3-year term, we have to go to a class, get updated, you know, and I spent 13 years on the other side of that table as the appraiser, and I still have to, I still have to do it. But
Well, that's the thing. There's so many classes in the municipal league book. I mean, we got it, a copy at the house right now, and you can read it all day long, all week long, and your head's going to spin, It's something different when you're going to class and you're learning about those things. So I really wish that they would encourage the city council to go to those. Because
it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Otherwise, you're just having to rely on somebody else because you don't know, or we have to wait for the attorney to email the municipal league to find out the answer.
Just keep in mind that's another expense.
It is
You'd
another
have to pay for
expense.
it.
But technically, it should be another tax write-off also.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, that should be a tax write-off. I know that as a business owner, I look for those kind of tax write-offs because that's what keeps me from having to pay taxes at the end of the year. That's why I don't necessarily think it should be like maybe an every year thing, but if you're going to serve multiple terms on the council, maybe like every so many years require it.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that has to be voted on or go through a certain procedure. When I got elected, I was elected by city council. Well, they went to the back room to do that discussion to figure out who they wanted and stuff like that. They come out and they let me know and stuff like that. It wasn't until the next episode, the next meeting that I got voted in. It was just one of those things like that it should have just been common, like, hey, we got to go through this procedure tonight or this or that.
Right.
I feel like there's a lot of that the city council has to vote on before, the mayor or something like that does something. And I don't know how much of, I feel like a lot of that just kind of gets overlooked too.
Right.
I feel like
Because we are a small town, and everybody has the same best interest, I think in reality. But there are still steps to it, like with the open bids and stuff like that on things. I think that's a great deal because that gives anybody who wants to be able to put in a bid, and you can look at quality and the cost and stuff like that and really make your judgment on who you want to use for that.
And I think that was one of the deals you talking about the new lawnmower thing. I think that was one of the things that they didn't they take some bids on somebody like maintaining the park and this that, and the other.
They said that was going to maybe be too expensive.
Yeah.
That was before I was on. Yep. So but those are some of the things I've seen other council members and stuff bring up as well. Is just, as part of the plan and procedure kind of thing, not going through the way it needs to. And I feel like that's something that we need to work on as a city as a whole and all together, because we can sit in there and talk and get the right outcome still, and do it the right way.
Yeah, because it's not like it's not like anybody hates each other. Let's just sit down and talk it out. And as long as we go through the process, the correct process, it'll work itself out.
Well, everybody has opinions, and if you don't add, say you don't add that person in, well, they might have a completely different perspective than you, so you might not be looking at it that way.
Right.
And it still have the same outcome,
Yeah. You might even be able to get a little bit better outcome, if you were to involve more than one person or more than one or two people in making the decisions.
I know that's one of the things that we've started this year is a hazardous mitigation plan. So it's dealing with what happens in natural disasters, what happens during whether it's
Extreme emergency.
extreme emergencies and stuff like that. And that's one of the things where a board of people and different minds coming together makes a real difference.
Well, I mean, that's just like right here in our business. Before we do anything, we have an office meeting and we say, here's all the things we're looking at, talking about, thinking about. Next month at the next meeting, everybody has some ideas, some inputs. Let's get it right. Let's make it, and
because we don't claim to be the smartest cookies in the box.
It could just be so much better.
Sometimes it's trial and error.
Ideas, and that's one of my favorite sayings. Let's talk it out. Because if I have an idea and I'm stuck on it, but I'm sitting here and I'm bouncing it off of you, we're gonna talk it out until, okay, that really is a good idea, but we need to maybe do it this way.
Well, there's off the wall thinkers,
Oh, for
and
sure.
Being in construction, that's one of the things I found. There was times like, how do we get this giant door to the second story, you know, and it's like, we can't fit it up the stairs. We can't make that turn. And it's like, hey, we got some ratchet straps in the car. Let's hook it up here and just lift it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's one of them you're puckering, you know, because it's a $1,000, you know, couple $1,000 door, but you get it up there, and it's some of that out of the box thinking sometimes that makes a big difference.
Before you leave, I'll show you our stairs and the love seat we had to get up there. If you want to talk about out of the box thinking. But yeah, some ratchet straps were involved.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we've got lots of compliments going around on Travis, because that's what lots of people like, is that he tries to think out of the box. Like, this might not be my question, but what if someone else has this question? And he does try to ask lots of questions in the council meetings, because not necessarily that he's
Not trying to ruffle feathers, but I'm trying to answer
Someone else
other people questions.
And I can appreciate that, because I try to play devil's advocate a lot.
Yeah.
And I try to have the opposing view in every conversation.
Well, it's hard to just be like, well, go talk to the mayor because I don't know the right answer, you know, because so I try to think of those questions that people would ask me or people would have concerns with, you know, and
I can appreciate that a lot. Do y'all ever disagree? I'm assuming he's talking about you two.
we don't always have the same point of view.
Well, I'm gonna say,
don't say that
they
we-
did disagree, because he would have loved to have kids in between, and she said no.
just keep going. We do. We don't have arguments, but we do have different views on things. The septic, he voted for the feasibility study, where I will just straight say no.
Right.
Just because I did my research before the meeting. You know, I'm all about learning, not just hearsay, but I want to know the actual answer. I'm not trying to look silly. I just really want to know the legal answer of certain things, and I just know that's one of the specific ones that we have. It's been a different opinion on lately, because you know he did go for the feasibility study just because he had lots of members of the community that wanted to know how much it was going to cost.
Right.
But and there's been some times where he's on that up there and after the council meeting, and I'm like, well, why didn't you say that? And he'll be like, well, that was your opinion, not mine. That's why I didn't say it. Well, okay, that's fair enough.
And at the end of the day, as long as whatever comes up is on the ballot and the people vote it.
Well, and that's a lot of the times that's a big thing that concerns me too, is there's a lot of things that it's just up to the city council to vote for, you know, and that's why I want to be that voice for our community, and because we do a lot of talking, and people are very opinionated, and I don't know if it's just because I'm younger and they feel like they need to say what they want me to hear, but I also want to hear what they have to say, because
Well, I mean, when you're talking about a lawnmower to mow the park, I trust the city council to make the right decision. I trust the city to make the right decision.
but
When
in that you're paying
when you're talking
somebody to
about
be
$10
over
million,
there. That's
I
a big
want the
difference.
people to vote on that.
That's a big difference.
You know, so it's still something that's up in the air. The city did make a public post saying that the city would, the members, the citizens would vote on the city sewer. However, it's not really straightforward in the municipal league book. The municipal league book kind of says that city council's supposed to vote on it. So it's something that's still up in the air that, you know, we've messaged
I think
people
that
from
depends on the
municipal league.
funding as well, you know, if you have to have revenue bonds, or you have to have, you know, a certain amount, then it goes up to the public to vote for that. But
you know, I think
that's why I asked the question, if city council votes and says yes and stuff like that, and it has to be a tax, what happens when the citizens say, we don't want that tax? Does it die right there? Or,
you know, if we've got 950 people in the city, and you had a petition or whatever of 450 signatures of people that lived in the city that said, hey, we want this, we want this study. Mm-hmm. Now the city council's doing what they should do. Mm-hmm. They're listening to the people and having the study done.
Well,
But I cannot make myself believe there is a petition somewhere with 450 signatures on it saying we want this study.
and to that, I think the registered voters is around 500 and something in this city. You know, and that's probably just during big election years. I've seen it come down to mayor race of, you know, if you had more than 100 people, you got it in this town, you know, just because it fell on a year where people weren't voting. So, you know, to that, when the last septic tried to go through with it being that, and it came up to a city vote, there was 340 something people that said no to it, and like 109 that said yes. You know, I
Yeah,
just
and I don't know what the number is. You know, I don't know what the actual population is, but
But there's a whole lot.
there's a lot of people that live here that don't vote too. I'm not going around politicking. I mean, well, I don't really vote, or I'm not registered to vote. You know, but I mean, I still feel like even if I don't have their vote, I should still have their opinion on my mind, because the things that we do as a city council affects their life, whether they're a voter or not.
Exactly.
Same way with felons and stuff like that. There's plenty of people that can't vote because they're a felon. That don't mean they're a bad person.
Right,
And,
there's a lot of-
shouldn't have a say so in life.
there's a lot of them that shouldn't have that status.
Oh, yeah.
In my personal opinion.
Well, they've had that status since the 90s.
Yeah.
And they're a completely different person now.
Yeah, I'd read something, you know, I told you earlier, I bought a motorcycle back in 2005. And I think it was like 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. Like 10 years later, I read where the federal government, because I guess they were tracking motorcycle gangs like the Hells Angels and so on. And everybody that bought a motorcycle was on a watch list.
On a watch list.
And I'm like, how easy is it to...
Well, I watch what homesteading pages I'm on for the same reason. I want
I'm
them to think,
sure.
you know, that's, I mean, there's incentives to file as a farm tax, you know, for tax, you know, as farm for tax purposes and stuff. But if you look back at laws and stuff that were placed when Kennedy was in, they can come take your land, they can come take your farm animals, and big natural disasters, or you know, times of war, or you know, and that's kind of concerning to me. I don't have a farm big enough to feed an army, you know.
Well, you know, and like-
well, at least not more than my small army I got at home. But
Like 10 or 12 years ago, about 10 years ago, I guess, our great uncle, they have some cows over around Brownsville, and they were talking about being taxed for the water, their pond, their pond.
yep, collecting rainwater.
Man, this when it comes to
That's-
government, they
when-
come up with some crazy
When
ideas.
when we moved to this town, you know, I lived down in the Brownsville area, you know, and so I've spent a lot of time running around down there as a child and whatnot, and it was, you know, until mom got the divorce from that side of the family and moved to town and got this house. It was different living out there in the country, you know. You're not playing in mud.
But I hope everybody has enjoyed this as much as we have. We really appreciate y'all coming in.
And you did not get your question answered, it's your fault.
Yeah,
Hey.
we tried to keep up with it.
I've got multiple posts on the locals page. I'm reaching out to the community. I would love to hear anybody's concerns, especially concerns, because I would like to take them forward. A lot of it's just we want to keep Greers Ferry. You know?
Well, when you say concerns, I mean, it's just like everything else in life. I mean, if I'm doing something right, yeah, give me a high five. But if I'm doing something wrong, that's what I really need to know, because that's
Well,
what
I want
need
to voice that. I want to voice that for that, you know,
Yeah.
for those people and stuff. You know, we've talked to people that want more street lights, or we've talked to people that want this and that, and I feel like we can bring that to attention. You know, I don't think those are big obstacles to get around that would make living for people in the areas, you know, much nicer and safer place to live. So
Everybody has different opinions and different ideas. We went from talking to 5 minutes to people to talking to 2 hours to people.
Right.
You know, there was one day it took us 8 hours to put out eight politics.
Well, I will.
Thank
I
you,
will
Tracy.
have to
Thank you,
say-
Tracy. You're welcome to come in, by the way.
I'm sorry, who?
Tracy.
Oh, yes, Tracy. But I will have to say, I read your posts that you made about the show tonight. I think you done it on the Greers Ferry Higdon.
locals.
I appreciated that post so much. You spoke volumes, in my opinion, in that post, just in your little header. But the fact that you felt the need to add us into your post and support your locals,
Yeah.
I thought that was.
Last time we had a newspaper in town, we had a commune running it. So, have y'all ever read the history on the
I've not read
commune?
the history, but I've heard some of the stories.
Oh,
Yeah.
There used to be
If you still watch live TV, does he still have his commercial? Because I'm not gonna get into that. All right, so
he went on to build a media and presence in Little Rock.
Yeah.
You know, but a lot of locals didn't want him here. I heard a lot of that was just because they were almost like an Amish in a sense. They were going around town being able to just do stuff way too cheap, you know, because they all lived in one area and stuff that was going on in that area wasn't approved of in the church communities.
if it's the one I'm thinking of, it was like
right there,
right in town.
right
there.
right in town.
Okay.
But I mean, that's part of our history nonetheless. you know?
Right.
But and
Well, that's like I heard doing the county thing. I heard stories of a particular place just across the bridge that it was like a subdivision. They put in septic system. They had a shop building, and they were exhausting all the fumes from their cooking through there. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But that was the story. Mm-hmm. You know, you never know.
people are going to make $1.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to chase it. But yes, I'm very, very supportive of local business and what y'all are doing with this. I love that y'all are supporting small business just the same with y'all's media presence and stuff like that. I really like to see a lot of people get on here and ask questions, because that's how you learn about people and the way they're going to conduct business when you come in there. You know, I joke around because, you know, I've got tattoos and stuff, and you know, in the trades, there's been a lot of people who go, you know, I've been raked over the coals by this guy and they left and took all this money. Well, there's a lot of, you know, for the last few years, I've done a lot of things just on a handshake, you know, and good faith, you know, and said, you need money up front? No, I'll get money when I finish the job. And,
right.
You know, and I want to treat everybody right and leave things better than the way I come into it. You know, I've seen my mom take care of many people in this town. You know, she was painting the wall, but when she moved the couch away from the wall, she was dusting under the couch and sweeping the floors. And I'm like, that's not part of painting, you know. She's like, but it's part of you're part of the presence, and when you leave, it's so much better. And
right.
That old lady might not be able to move that couch and dust underneath it.
That's it. But I do appreciate y'all a bunch. I really do. This has been good.
And we encourage anybody that still has questions or would like to talk to us or have us come by and talk to you, reach out to us.
Yeah.
There's 3 weeks left until early voting starts. It starts on the October 21st. Actual voting is November 5th, but 3 weeks away from early voting. So if anybody has questions, please reach out, because we're always free and we don't mind coming by and talking.
And that now that I kind of have an idea of who they are, I see them all the time, so they're really hard to find.
We definitely support the local businesses. You see me on the Higdon local page. I'm probably one of the top contributors, because I'm always on there trying to support some kind of local business.
And that's what we need to do as a community, is to support each other.
Mm-hmm.
We'll all make it and get through.
And even if you don't go by and buy something, just sharing a post and somebody else will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
It's
I think our businesses are going to continue to grow and do good in this area, you know, with that local support, you know. And I hope y'all do. I hope this thing takes off for you.
Yeah.
You know, I know y'all got real estate to sell, but I like this. I you know, and I think, you know, it's a good outlet for people to get word. You know, I've ran my business off of word of mouth. Since I've started, I've never passed out a business card. I've had to find an ink pen to write my number down half the time. You know, the most I've gotten advertisement is my Facebook page and some t-shirts, you know, and I'd go off word of mouth, because what the work we want to put out and stuff, we want to take pride in it. And I think a lot of people in town are that way. And if your neighbors are saying you should use this guy, I trust him wholeheartly. You know, that's the one you want to go for, you
right.
know. We try to make ourselves available for everybody we can.
And we'll get y'all in here again on the business side of things.
absolutely.
You know, at some point we're it may be after the first of the year.
Got Miss Macy in the Happy Hanger this Thursday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's exciting for her.
Yeah.
So,
She's another one of them coffee lovers.
oh, yeah.
We see her in there multiple mornings for sure. So, yeah, we look forward to seeing that, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, and if y'all can think of, you know, a local business owner that we haven't,
Because clearly we don't know everybody.
yeah, that y'all would like to see on the show, just send them. I call it a show. I don't know what to call it. It's not a podcast, but it's not a show. Whatever. So I call it a
It's
show.
a media presence, you know.
Yeah,
that's,
something.
I think, I joke because Kayla's got more of a media presence than I do when it comes to Facebook, you know, as far as local page and supporting small business and stuff. And it amazes me how many people go, "Hey, I see your wife's stuff," you know.
I'm always like, I hope it wasn't bad.
And that's, it's,
But no, I
crazy.
try to support the local businesses as much as possible because as being a business owner, we know how hard it can be.
yeah, for sure.
And our whole purpose behind starting this up is, you know, us as realtors, we know how many out-of-towners, you know, that we have, but use our local contractors and, you know, whatnot, but they don't know them. They'll call you up and, hey, come do this job for me. You go do that job, and you'll never meet.
Yeah.
That's our whole purpose in doing this, is it puts your face out there. You're a family man, you've got an army of kids, and you've got a homestead, and, you know, so it puts y'all out there,
Yeah.
and hey, this is what I do for a living, call me up, or I had that guy come redo my bathroom, or, you know, whatever. Now I know what he looks like.
Yep.
He's a bearded guy.
And I hate to be that guy, but we really do want to make this even better video quality, better audio quality. But it takes funds.
It does.
It takes funds.
You gotta start
So
somewhere.
even if you don't want to be on the show, but you want to support this thing, let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted to reach out last week because I mean, I love what you're doing with the sponsors and stuff while y'all are running the thing because you know it's putting that thing back up there and stuff like that. And yeah, I feel like if there's anybody that wants to see more of it and stuff like that, and they can support you in any kind of way, to whether it's being on the show or you know, if you got a really nice mic in your recording
Donations
studio
or
that you don't want to use, or, donate, yeah. But you know, besides that, let's I
Yeah,
guess-
they need, hint, one extra microphone if anybody has one.
Yeah.
I gotta steal hers.
So
But it's fine.
I've got like $600 in my cart. Y'all know the cart.
Oh yeah,
And it's just to add another microphone.
my wife won't let me put anything in the cart anymore because I
Because he accidentally checks out.
oops.
It was a major oops because half the stuff wound up going back because it was crap. But
Not too long ago, there was stuff for 2 weeks, and I'm like, where did this come from? Did you order something? What's in here? He goes, oh, I must have accidentally hit that checkout. You accidentally hit
Merry
that.
Christmas. Here's your tortilla press. Why was that in there? Because it was $10. Well, that's good.
if you don't say anything, I've done checked out too late now.
Didn't need anything last minute.
They got a little army they need to get back to. I'm sure somebody would appreciate them coming home.
And we're all talkers. So
Yeah.
we could
Oh,
probably
yeah.
sit
We
here
could keep
forever.
going.
I'd be glad to talk to anybody who wants to. That's
Yeah.
for sure. It'll probably be a long conversation.
But we appreciate it again. Thank y'all for coming, and we'll get y'all on the books for.
Well, and all I was gonna add to that is we would encourage anybody that's running for this election.
Oh yeah, I would love to hear
And
other
we started
people's
telling
opinions.
people.
Yeah, for
Come
sure.
in, use this as your platform to just like y'all did, get your views and your points out there to the public because, you know, not everybody is available to have a 30-minute conversation or an hour conversation.
Agree.
But they can come on here in the evenings and get their questions asked.
And another thing that I like, that I think we need to do better, is I loved how we got the personal stuff in there too. A little bit of who you are.
I was trying to think of a, y'all do the funny stories on business. I just don't have one of those as council yet,
Well, be thinking of one. That could be on the business because you'll need one there
Oh,
too.
I could be.
Yes, please don't have to give us funny jokes on the business. They all involve me.
So we'll just say, have it prepared, because when we run you back on for the business portion of it,
Yeah.
that question will come up.
But thanks everybody for being here, and hope y'all have a great night. See y'all Thursday.
Go.